The best ball and fantasy football championships are here. We waited months and months and months, drafted many, many teams, and hopefully got one to the finals, whether it's your home league or Best Ball Mania or any best ball tournament. We got a crazy weekend of football ahead of us, and we brought in our good friend John Daigle, myself, and Rob Coakley. We're going to break down Week 17, sweats, tilts, everything there in between, everything you need to know for the best ball and fantasy football championships here as we get ready for 2025. Let's do it. All right, guys, we're getting this out of the way right now because before we went live, we were discussing being old and being injured. And so it's a kind of fitting as we head into Week 17. I'm sure everyone that is, whether you're in your like work league championship, you're in Best Ball Mania, you're in the Chihuahua 17, you are dealing with the injuries that are Week 17. I did not expect that David Njoku would be the guy that's tilting me the most heading into Week 17, but thus is best ball. You don't know who's going to make it to your on your teams that are in the finals. But man, Jalen Hurts is apparently allergic to Week 17. He doesn't like to play in Week 17. Yeah, he doesn't play those. Count him in for Week 18, not for Week 17. Lots and lots of injuries, but also hopefully better games this weekend. I'm pretty excited for all the games Saturday, Sunday, and of course Monday night. Some awesome football games, and excited to dig into it as it's here. You know, everything that we've worked for now is here in Week 17. Daigle, how are you feeling?
How overstacked was that Ravens-Texans game, too, because we all thought it would be high scoring, and the Texans have been one of the league's worst teams. I can't believe we're allowing them to the playoffs. Like, we have to find a team that, like, is going to be more fun, at least, than watching the Texans get eliminated the first round. But, yeah, just zero pushback. 8 points from Nico Collins. Obviously, not good enough at all. So that was the first letdown. If you did chase the indoor environments, it is still fun there because it seems like Packers Vikings is trending towards like one of the highest scoring and best environments to have this week. Cardinals Rams, we all know everyone started tacking on Puka Marvin Harrison Jr., second round turn for the stack. Not that Harrison will get there, but the Rams offense is still probably a safe one. It's a completely different environment than the first time these two teams played in week 2. And then we'll see what happens with the Raiders and Saints indoors. You're going to get Brock Bowers with Aiden O'Connell jumped back up to a 35% target share. Chris Olave may even sneak in there for us this game, despite not expecting to have him in the last 2 months. So that could be fun. And then, of course, Monday night, we'll see. I can't wait for Monday night because it's a good litmus test. It's the highest total of the week, so much so that like it's increasing over 50 points now, as opposed to Broncos Bengals, which I think is still safe, but that's at least coming down a little bit. But for the Lions, this is going to be a true litmus test for Jared Goff, just because so far, like the under pressure is still where Goff has struggled. Like we know who Goff is. I know there's talks of him being MVP. He hasn't improved at all. He's the same quarterback he's always been, which is an amazing quarterback when it all fits well for him. When the pocket collapses, he's the type of player that still struggles. And even last year in this matchup against the Niners, from a clean pocket, he went 22 of 28 for 8.5 yards per attempt and 1 touchdown. When he was under pressure against the Niners last year, 3 of 13 for 2 yards per attempt and 2 sacks. It was miserable. And now we get like this offense that if you want to poke holes in anything Jahmyr Gibbs did, and Jahmyr Gibbs is great. He's still the RB1 of the week. He's going to be amazing. Don't get me wrong. But if we are nitpicking here, Jahmyr Gibbs at the goal line last week did go 5 carries for -1 yards, and he got the 1 touchdown. So like that's where they need David Montgomery to be that physical bruiser on short yardage situations. So I don't know. It could be fun. Like if Jared Goff goes for 260 yards and a couple turnovers, I don't think it would be that shocking either.
No, I think that game is super intriguing because on one hand, like you said, total Lions games are kind of back to being the course field of although, you know, Caleb and Co can't quite. They're the team that scores 2 runs in Coors Field, right? The Bears. We're not talking about that game last night. Okay, let's get that out of the way right now. I don't have any interest in other than making fun of it along the next hour or whatever. My gosh, I didn't. now we're off. This is a typical Spike Week show. We're going to be off the rails in the first 5 minutes. I told in the Discord, everyone was tilting. I messaged earlier, and Rob knows this because he and I were talking about it, that I got it's not technically Harry Potter, but it's the Hogwarts video game, PS5 game for Christmas, right? And I was like, I think I'm going to play that instead of watch. I have 2 finals teams in best ball. I didn't have anybody from that game, even though like I drafted a lot of guys from that game. I didn't have anybody. I'm like, we're not going to watch it. We're going to enjoy this, whatever. I checked back in. I took a little break, and I think it was coinciding with around halftime or the third quarter or something with the Spike Week Discord. Of course, you can join us for free in there. We're tilting all of the games, especially this week. And I was like, seems like you guys should come join me at Hogwarts because this is not. You guys don't seem to be having any fun watching this game, and I guess it didn't get worse or it didn't get better in the second half. The Lions game is, like you said, litmus test is such a great word. I'm really fat. I don't have people in that game either, so I'm like really scared of it. But it's not one of those like total mega slam dunks to me. I think if you have guys in that game, you're feeling good, but it's also not like you said, there's Goff issues. There's Gibbs. Gibbs is awesome, but there's Gibbs issues. There's 49ers, like real issues.
Oh, the 49ers suck.
Yeah, they're terrible. They got injuries, blah, blah, blah. So this week is crazy, man. This week is nuts. Weather games. Like you said, if you have dome games, you're feeling great. Like Packers Vikings is like 2 good defenses, but still one of the best teams or one of the best games to have guys from. This is every week 17, every playoff is chaotic. This year feels like over the top chaotic to me. Like I can't remember anything like this.
I think it's hyperbolized because Christmas is on Wednesday and this is Christmas games this year. So that makes it a little worse with games on Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Next year, Christmas is on a Friday. It'll be a lot easier for everyone. But yes, I think that's what makes it seem even worse this year. Plus, it's the time of the year. I just did the Pick Six show over there, Roto Grinders, with Rich, Rebar, and Dean. And as I said there, it's the time of the year where games are predictable. Like you don't even need, if you've been watching all these games, I could have shown up Monday night and done the whole write-up. Like if I was a Packers beat reporter, I just would have wrote up the whole game before it kicked off because we knew what happened. Like, of course, a Cajun team going into Lambeau in mid-December without 6 of their starters, they're going to get road graded, dude. They're going to get their ass kicked. That was so predictable. And you should not be allowed to victory lap Josh Jacobs. And I'm not talking about best ball. Like, he was a great pick. I faded him for the most part for, like, Derrick Henry and those builds. But, like, and for season long and shit like that, like, of course Josh Jacobs was going to finish as an RB1. Like, get out of here. What are we doing? Also, again, the Texans have been the worst team for, like, 2 months. So, of course, the Ravens were just going to mow through them. Of course, the Chiefs were going to figure it out, get Hollywood Brown back, and the Steelers are never going to be able to stop them. We're just at the time of the year where games are predictable. So I will say we are going to have some slam dunks on this slate as well, but there are some litmus tests, including with that Packers Vikings one. Yes.
Just before you get lit up in chat, I just want to let you know Christmas is on Thursday next year.
Oh,
before
shit.
everyone comes for you.
Imagine not knowing the 2025 calendar.
Damn
what an idiot. I liked what Daigle said there, though. And this is funny because, Rob, I know you're like sweating hard a big survivor pool, right? And so that predictability thing that Daigle was talking about is like really, really important for you as well. Obviously us, with our best ball teams or our fantasy teams or DFS teams or whatever this week. But if you had to think about like, what are the games that jump out to you kind of probably from that, like, I know generally what I'm getting from this game. What have you been thinking about in terms of week 17?
Yeah, I mean, Daigle's part of my game theorizing chat for the survivor pool where we go through that. So we're looking through it.
Patriots were a scare too, like 28 first downs and like being ahead of the Bills by a couple scores. I'm not gonna lie, I started sweating a little bit for you.
Yeah, we had Bills Green Bay last week. As of now we have Colts and God, who do we have this week? We have Colts and I'll think about it in a second. But yeah, it's been a hell of a sweat. I have a sprint team that can't win, but can at least make some decent money. So you are looking through a lot of that predictability. The Colts thing I bring up because what is going on with Richardson right now?
I didn't even know he got hurt. I didn't even know he got hurt.
I didn't know until I logged in to watch the Pick Six show, and I hadn't seen the stuff about him not practicing this week. So that becomes a little bit scary. I have the Bucks as my other team. So right now we're Colts Bucks this week.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, I don't mind.
Yeah,
having
I'll knock on wood. We don't want to guarantee anything here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina's look better.
Panthers are feisty. They're punchy. You're in a good spot, but 2 months ago you would have said I got the Bucks left against the Panthers,
lock.
like home run, and today you're like, it's okay. It's not the best.
Yeah, I mean, Bryce Young is making the pick over CJ Stroud almost look right at this point. He's playing a lot better. So that's some of the other stuff that like we just couldn't have seen during the best ball drafting season, right? I wasn't huge on a lot of the Carolina picks. I definitely wasn't taking a ton of Bryce Young. That even looked like it was a failure in the first few weeks when they benched him. He comes back. The other thing you guys bring up is the Olave thing. He might end up being the best second round pick in best ball. And that's why we try to tell people after, 13, 14 weeks, you can't count that first 25% of the best ball season because it can switch on a dime, like out of nowhere. It's a fun, chaotic game that we play, and things get real wild. And the only things that we know in best ball is that the Packers are going to play Green Bay every week 17. And Derrick Henry is always going to play against the Texans. Those are the only two things we know.
And Jalen Hurts is not going to play.
And Jalen Hurts isn't going to play.
So fade 4th round Jalen Hurts because he's not going to play. I want to talk super quick about the Colts, that Colts Giants game. You talk about predictability and like kind of smash home run spots. It's so funny to me that over the course of this whole season, I'm trying to stay away from Twitter other than like to put out the links to the show and all that kind of stuff because, man, it's brutal out there in those streets. But all season, right, it was tons of back and forth with zero running back versus did you draft Saquon and did you draft Derrick Henry and those guys. And I get it. Those guys turned out to be great picks. I don't think even zero running back bros were like thinking that they were going to have bad seasons. They've had great seasons. And if you had them, awesome. But the guy to me, coming into week 17 that stands out the most as an early round running back is Jonathan Taylor. And in this spot against this Giant, the Giants have laying over and dying isn't even really doing it justice. Like, this is pathetic. They don't even want to start. Drew Lock is so bad, they won't even put Tommy DeVito in the game because they don't want to possibly score some more points and compete in one of these games. What I do want to know, though, Daigle, if you have Jonathan Taylor, you made the championship or you're in the best ball finals, would you prefer to have Flacco or would you prefer to have Anthony? Like, how is this game looking? Because I kind of think the Colts could be guys that all season we were like, maybe not Michael Pittman, but like Josh Downs and Jonathan Taylor look pretty awesome this week if you have them. But Josh Downs is probably more with Flacco, JT. I don't know. What do you think about the Colts?
Josh Downs leads them in target share regardless of who's under center. But more importantly, Jonathan Taylor's target share does increase whenever Flacco's under center because Andy Richardson doesn't check down and also takes carries away from him. So you want Flacco, in my opinion. It's also just such a better run out because I don't know what the passing volume would be if Flacco was under center because there's nothing else to see from him. Like we still have like some milestones. We're trying to have Jonathan Taylor have a good year. Plus the Giants, they've held up okay without Dexter Lawrence the past few weeks. Derrick Henry got 67 yards, all because Lamar Jackson got there with 5 touchdowns. Last week, Bijan didn't go over 100, but had 2 touchdowns from the 4 and 2 yard line. I still think it's like the Giants haven't broke just yet, but they're more than capable of breaking in their front 7. So I love Jonathan Taylor regardless.
The dam is cracking a little bit.
He's a good play regardless. Like he's amazing this week. Yeah.
Rob, how are you feeling about those? They were a team that jumped out to me again, like in our best ball space. This game is, like you said, it's so chaotic. Like no one would have said, like I said, all year it's Saquon, it's Derrick Henry, it's Josh Jacobs, like Daigle mentioned before. Jonathan Taylor was an objectively bad pick, right? Like by our old school fantasy metrics, like you weren't excited. Like you probably didn't make the playoffs if you drafted Jonathan Taylor in the second round of your. Like it was a tough pick, and then last week goes absolutely nuclear. And in week 17, he has one of the best spots on the board and might get a quarterback who could actually, get him some pass catching and not steal goal line touchdowns. So the Colts, like I said, were one that jumped out to me like as the epitome of like how this game is so crazy. Like nobody was excited about the Colts, and heading into week 17, I'm like, my God, give me Josh Downs, right? Give me Jonathan Taylor.
I think this game in particular shows us 3 distinct lessons that we need to take forward going into the next best ball season. Jonathan Taylor is the first one. So for like us 0, we draft hero and 0 RB guys, and I was doing a lot of hero RB builds this year, but I wasn't doing it around Jonathan Taylor. And I should have mixed him in, because when I'm mixing in my Jonathan Taylor build, I'm going to build those teams differently than other people build Jonathan Taylor teams, right? So that's something that I should have been doing a little bit more if I wanted to, dabble in the Jonathan Taylor streets. The other lessons is Josh Downs, right, is a lesson from the draft season. When he got injured, we knew he was only going to be out 2 to 3 weeks, and he plummeted in drafts 2 to 3 rounds. And I mean, I jumped on that personally and was just overdrafting him at that point, because those first 2 to 3 weeks honestly don't overly matter too much. Again, we're talking about a small sample size of an overarching season. And I think the third one is Drew Lock, and insert other names for this, but people were, clamoring for Drew Lock for, weeks before he came in. And we can talk about this with other players, and we pretend that we know better than NFL team evaluators, right? As soon as everyone's like, Drew Lock's got to be better than this, and Drew Lock sucks. Like, sorry, he's not good.
Fucking awful,
right? And then we did this all off season with Khalil Herbert. We thought that there was other stuff going on there, and it just turns out Khalil Herbert's not that good anymore, or was never that good in the first place. He was just fine, and now he's trash, right? So those are the things, like, we need to take a step back as like our own talent evaluators and see what NFL. I talked about this in the offseason. What are NFL teams telling us about some of the players on their teams? And we pretend we know better sometimes. I mean, sometimes maybe we can see something that's coming, but with players that have been in the league as long as those two and other players this offseason, I think we need to take a step back and be like, okay, there's a reason this is happening right now. If especially the Bears, right? Like, if Khalil Herbert was anything, don't you want to get him out there with your rookie quarterback to insulate him as much as you were building around? And they just didn't even want him on the field.
As opposed to paying DeAndre Swift the big bag.
Yeah. So those are my 3 lessons from this Colts Giants game that I think we can sort of take out and extrapolate into next year.
Daigle, what do you think about that, like, premise in terms of, I know establish the run as a little bit more of a ball knowers, as it should be.
It's a little more. No. What it is, it's arguments every day about between the ball knowers and the spreadsheet slaves. Like, right. Literally, our Slack is just arguing the whole day. It's like, no, Leote, that doesn't make sense. But like, then he sees the range of outcomes, and we have to tick players up and down by literally 0.5 target share. And they're like, bro, I don't have time for this shit. Like, you tick them up and down. I don't think that matters. And ultimately it does matter. And I get pissed off. Yes. That's what it is every day.
It's Captain America Civil War for sure.
Yes.
I don't know who's who in that movie from Established the Run. I'll tell you, Silva is not, Silva's probably the Captain America side of things, but,
Silva just doesn't. Who's the character who doesn't participate? That's Silva. Like, he don't have time to check it on Slack. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say time. He's definitely not checking it on Slack. I'll say that.
He just doesn't care. He's smart. Exactly. He's much smarter than all the rest of us, not being eternally
He's listening
online.
to Joe Rogan and doing 10,000 steps. Yeah.
Okay, maybe not. Well, 10,000 steps, good. Joe Rogan, I don't know. That's debatable. But in terms of over the summer, right, you hear a lot of I saw somebody tweet the other day about, like, player takes, right? Like, it's good that there's still player takes, because it in the best ball space, especially, it has become a lot of, right, like, structure and, like, getting some different combos and, like, when to stack versus when to take your favorite player, all that kind of stuff. And I think ultimately, like everything, it's like there's no right or it's not one or the other. It's not player takes versus structure or whatever. But thinking about some of the things like that Rob was saying, how do you think about your player takes on, like, I know ball, right? I know Chase Brown is the man versus, like, I know what this team is telling us, right? Like, I know what the NFL is telling us. Like, Kendre Miller's a funny one where you could say, the NFL is telling us he's terrible, but maybe it was just that guy. The NFL is telling us maybe, look, you think Ronald Jones and Khalil Herbert are really good, fantasy bro? Guess what? Like, maybe they're just not that good. How do you balance that, right? Like, how do we go back and think, now that we're heading into the finals, how do we handle that kind of balance?
I don't even know if it's about ball knowing takes. If anything, I think we should put some more volatility into our drafting. Like that's where I was wrong on Chase Brown. I don't care what Davis Maddox says. You can't guarantee Chase Brown would have emerged if Zach Moss did not get injured. Do we think he would have? Yes, we think he would have. But you can't guarantee that because Chase Brown was not even an RB2 whenever Zach Moss was healthy. He then suffers a season-ending neck injury, and only then does Chase Brown get every single touch and become an RB1. So my mistake, it's not saying like Davis is wrong or anything like that. My mistake is not inputting more volatility into my own drafting because really you couldn't have screwed up running back unless you screwed it up altogether and faded them, which I did in a lot of places. And again, I still tacked on so much Achane and Derrick Henry that I wasn't necessarily wrong in all my drafts, but for the most part, in ignoring Saquon Barkley, going overweight on Moss over Chase Brown, things like that, I should have just again input more volatility. I would say the one thing that did get right that I was in on was fading all of these bums for injuries, like telling you or saying Nick Chubb, if he's going to return week 8, cool, doesn't matter. Does not matter at all. Don't care. Now you did get a 2 touchdown game out of him. So we can argue Spike Week has the tools for this. Like, was that one usable week? Was that worth his 10th to 12th round pick? I don't know. No. You would have to tell me that. Okay. So yeah, but beyond that, TJ Hawks.
It made it closer to neutral than people would probably.
Sure.
I think to your exact point. Sorry, I think people underappreciate 1 or 2 big games, like real spike weeks. Now that one probably wasn't quite to that level, right?
It was 30 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I don't know.
But think about the Devonte Adams week 15 game against the Jaguars. All season, Devonte, he's fine, right? It's like there are worse picks than Devonte Adams, but there's certainly a lot better picks than Devonte Adams. Like if you had Devonte Adams and you're watching the Saquon Barkley second round drafter do laps around you, but then those 1, 2 couple of huge games are so impactful, especially if they happen at the right time. I think that's still really undersold. Like Devonte Adams has scored more points in the fantasy playoffs than Saquon Barkley did. And people view Saquon Barkley as like the LOL, did you draft him or not? And it's like, well, would you rather have Saquon or would you rather have Devonte Adams?
What was the advance rate, not to put you under the gun here, in BBM for Saquon Barkley teams? Because didn't he eliminate most of them in week 15 with that terrible game?
Yeah, that was
the Josh Jacobs shit from a couple years ago, where Josh Jacobs was awesome until week 14, and then all he did was eliminate everybody.
He was a 50% advance rate player, and most Saquon teams got dusted off in the first round of the playoffs. And not just because Saquon was bad. Sometimes you can get through that if it's you got. I don't even remember who went nuts at running back that Chase Brown, right? You have, those guys can have the Chase Browns and James Connors of the world too, Chubas. But when literally the competing second round pick, Devonte Adams is a second round pick and Saquon is a second round pick, when that guy goes for 40 and you don't do anything and like you were relying upon that guy, it's huge. Now, I'm not sitting here trying to say we could predict that. I'm not saying Devonte was a better pick, but it's a great lesson. You talked about the volatility part of it. That's the big thing that I try to just constantly remember all summer is like, this shit is chaos, dude. Complete and utter chaos. So don't pretend like we know absolutely everything over the summer, because even the best picks can turn into the worst picks when we get to the playoffs. And that sounds stupid, but this game is very, very bizarre and unique in that way.
Yeah, and Saquon, like we already, the chat is saying Jalen Hurts got ruled out as we expected. And Saquon Barkley was bad when Kenny Pickett came on the field last week permanently too. Like Kenny Pickett tanks the entire
sub 2
offense.
yards per carry. Yards per carry.
Yeah, it was really bad. It was under 3. So, and Grant saying in the chat, 86 of 539. So yeah, Saquon Barkley tanked a lot of teams too. So I would still say the one takeaway, we'll have all offseason debate the shifts and the meta change in drafting, including like Brock Bowers and Trey McBride single-handedly pushing tight ends back up into the first-round turn range. But I would say the one meta that I'm definitely taking away is like, it's still drafting for injuries, man. It's still tough. Still something I do not want to do.
That was the big thing that in a shout out Pete Overzet, our good friend, did a truth serum video before the season started. That was everybody, a whole bunch of really smart people, and then myself, right? A bunch of smart people were giving their truth serum takes for this upcoming season. And I said exactly like the best picks in best ball, maybe not season long, but maybe. But I think the best picks in maybe fantasy football overall are backups. Like it's the guys who week one, when you can't project a week one role for them, it's so hard to figure out how to price them. I don't know that we'll ever be able to do it. Right? Like Blake Corum as a backup. Rob has talked about this a ton over the course of the season. Like we just said, Blake Corum is the one handcuff that we're going to catapult up into the early 100s. And like now this didn't work. Obviously Bijan stayed healthy all season, but I was like, I can get Tyler Algier in the 150s and Blake Corum goes at like 110. Like, why is there a 4-round difference exactly between all of these guys? So the backup stuff I think is big. And then of course, when we get to this time of year, right, like we start to see this stuff play out is like that when guys get hurt, guys go down, like all positions, right? What it could be tight end. It could, like if Brock Bowers weren't playing today, maybe you want Michael Mayer on that team. And it's like Michael Mayer looks like a shit pick, right, in June or July, but the chaos just plays out in funky ways, and it's really hard to see them coming. So the backups end up being like a lot of the best.
But it's more about rostering your bench with chaos, right? Because at least for this year, it's top heavy, but then you did need to embrace for chaos behind the top heavy. So almost like a stars and scrubs build in best ball.
Stars and scrubs. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Or doing some more. So like the thing I'm going to be doing a lot more of next year is the 4 running back build, which I was doing a lot of this year, where you
anti-fragile.
Doing some sort of anti-fragile 4 RB build.
Me
where,
too, Josh.
where like Corum is my 4th running back, if that's the way I wanted to go with it. I did a lot of Chase Brown as my 4th running back this year. I mean, the team that we dissected ad nauseum was CMC, HN, Kyron, Chase Brown, right? And like that team still went nuclear even without having CMC, with having those 4 running backs.
Yeah,
so
imagine if CMC plays.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I mean, that team would have been, but that team showed me that when I do that type of build, the people that are comfortable doing that build are probably taking Zach Moss more than they're taking Jace Brown. So to go with Daigle's point, playing into that volatility and taking the guy that might have a little bit more of an upside, because I should be shooting for upside with that 4th pick at that point.
Yeah,
with those 3 running backs. So what the hell? And I had some with Nick Chubb, and what does Nick Chubb do for these teams? What does Zach Moss do for these teams when you're already shooting the upside at your earlier picks? And that's something that I want to do a little bit more of going forward too.
Makes a ton of sense. I want to hit just a couple of comments. Custo Hockey, I apologize. I meant to hit this before 30 minutes into the episode, but he is. I'm going to go to Daigle first with this one, but he has a weird one. Shout out to you, by the way, for sitting Stroud. We may have roasted you if you started Stroud. I'll be totally honest with you.
Yeah.
What a disaster the Texans are. Goodness gracious. But he has 2 options since he's Stroud. Drake May, or if Anthony Richardson does. I kind of like this question. Drake May is obviously going to start, but if Anthony Richardson sits, would you play Joe Flacco? I don't think the PPR part of it matters unless you're expecting, Joe Flacco to catch a Philly special touchdown.
I love though always the tack on of what kind of league they're in with the quarterback. Like it doesn't matter. I think it's obviously Drake May. You just take the rushing floor, especially in season-long leagues. You don't overthink this. Like I had so many, and it's the time of the year where everyone overthinks this. Everyone always hyperbolizes their questions in the playoffs because everything matters a little more. Of course, you can't get it wrong, but you don't go like 2-3 points above the projection, and that's what Drake May to Joe Flacco is. Drake May is adding 4.5 extra points per game with his rushing. Joe Flacco obviously does not do that. I had questions last week where Aaron Rodgers is in a good spot, and people are like, "Oh, do I go Jaden Daniels or Aaron Rodgers?" It's like, no, you don't fudge the projections that much. Don't overthink this. So I think Drake May to Joe Flacco is overthinking. May in his 10 full starts this year is the QB 12 in points per game. He's a QB 1. Just start him.
He has not scored fewer than, I'll call it 16 because he had a 15.8 or whatever point game in the last month. You're just banking 16 points.
Yeah.
And it looks bad. I played Drake May in DFS. I've had Drake May on season long teams. And like, you don't enjoy the first half. Okay. So don't watch the first half because it's not going to go well.
That's true.
You're not going to enjoy it. Turn on the second half, watch him in the fourth quarter, run for a touchdown and throw a touchdown in the fourth quarter.
It has to get to Alex Van Pelt's playbook not being usable. And then they're just like, all right, kid, go out there. And that's when Drake May gets all his fantasy points. Yeah.
Backyard football. I actually a little look behind the paywall for Roto-Grinders, which of course you guys were just on a Roto-Grinder show. So I'm playing Drake May tomorrow in DFS. So
that's Reeves, by the way. Yeah, Reeves loves Drake May tomorrow.
I think he's a smash. My favorite, they ask about your favorite, like a correlation or stack or whatever. And mine is, I did go Pop Douglas. I'm much more of a DraftKings player, but like, you know, is he probably going to score a touchdown? No, not necessarily. But like, shoot, man, I'm going to get probably double digits from Pop and probably 20 from Drake May. So I'm very in on that one. What do you guys think about? We talked about JT a little bit. Gus Edwards ruled out. Daigle, where would you put? Let's assume J.K. Dobbins is playing. I think we got confirmation that he's playing.
Yeah.
Where would you put J.K. Dobbins in your like running back hopeful list? I know Bolick is in the chat and has a killer BBM team, like awesome BBM team, and has Kyron, James Conner, and J.K. Dobbins at running back. So where would you put Dobbins amongst your kind of running back expectations?
So the issue for Dobbins is that he still wasn't necessarily explosive, but he was getting there in his last few games on touchdowns. And like for a BBM team, that's what you're hoping for anyways. And of course he can do that. I still worry that he's going to be a limited player though. In his first game back off injured reserve, it's I don't know if a short week matters for him on a Saturday since he's been on injured reserve this entire time, but he just is one of those guys who has to score a touchdown or two in order to provide production because he's not been explosive. So if he could score a touchdown, great. I think for DFS, for instance, and Battle Royales, I still think Kamani Vidal is live because I really think Dobbins is only going to see 40 to 50% of their touches, if that.
If they play from where do you think Vidal comes in? Like, we assume a normal Patriots game script, right, where the Patriots are trailing. Do you think that they back off Dobbins and just, like you said, like more of the Vidal game, or are you a little more bullish on Dobbins, assuming right it's 14-3 at halftime or something?
It's a cold weather game as well. Chargers are still favored on the road, so yeah, I think Dobbins will again get carries, but I do think we're going to get the Nick Chubb run out, and that it's going to be a timeshare, and Dobbins just will not be explosive. Doesn't mean he can't score touchdowns. He can. He'll still get the goal line roll over Vidal. Gus Edwards had that role. Haskins has that role. But that's kind of the fear, is that both Vidal and Haskins are still used enough to drown out Dobbins. Again, I'm going to take my shots elsewhere in that backfield because I do think it's a very favorable game for Los Angeles. I just worry about Dobbins' efficiency.
Makes a ton of sense. I just want to hit a couple more comments and we can move on down some of these Week 17 games and such. This is as a total sicko who I'm not. You just also got off a show with Rich. Shout out to Reeves. He mentions that he doesn't ever look at his teams. Like I don't have that kind of I don't have that kind of self-control. You know, like I got to know, man. Like you spend all summer, and I know he doesn't draft as much as probably the rest of us do, so he doesn't care quite as much. But like I spent all summer caring about this shit way too much. So I want to know what I need to root for. I'm not like microanalyzing absolutely everything, but I need to know. And this, as Light of Truth says, this year's sweat is painful, dude. Like games every day, and then Saturday games, and it every single play feels much more stressful than previous years.
So I support Rich in this. I love this. This is also a Rich.
You guys
thing,
are
of course
nuts.
Because think about it. Like there's so many things in life that we have control over. Like imagine now caring about something we have no control over. Like we're done. That's the whole point of best ball to me. Is that
not the first fucking thing you don't have control over?
This is like the best thing about best ball is that we have no control over. It's done. And so we will self-analyze and psychoanalyze come January and February. Like during the season, it's done. Also, like Rich and I, the day-to-day is such a grind that like dude, we're just not looking. So I've looked, I think 5 or 6 times for sure. All my teams are done after last week, by the way. I didn't slip any bullets in, unfortunately. Also, that was remember at the beginning of this year, weird 3 months, where I was unemployed for 3 months and then jumped on, was established a run after months of talking and finally getting deals done. And so I didn't jam as many teams because I also had to like flip and build our best ball package for the first time ever, which was part of it. So didn't get to draft the 150 per usual. But yes, I support Rich on this. Like, you should not look at it if you have the willpower. But also enjoy what you want to enjoy. Like, obviously, and that's the whole Spike Week thing, is y'all show up every week to talk about and sweat these things. Y'all analyze throughout the year, week to week, or I'm still in the season-long streets, so I'll do that instead.
Yeah, so that's Rich's psychopathic tendency. If you want to know what Daigle's psychopathic tendency is, he doesn't use ice at like soda machines.
Do not, no. Because
these are our arguments behind the scenes.
Felt like a fountain soda.
Yeah.
You don't put ice in it
because it comes out cold. So why do you need ice? The purpose of ice is to make the drink cold. Thus, the ice only takes up space that the liquid could otherwise.
Okay, that part I'm cool with. Yes. So you're giving away like 4 ounces of soda. Yeah.
It's a plus EV decision to leave out the ice. Yes.
You'd have to chug it right there. Like, these are these hot plastic ass cups.
It's not hot. It comes out cold.
But it gets hot within like 4 seconds because it's in those plastic cups. You take it outside, the sun's beating on it. Your soda's boiling by the time you get into the car.
But then the ice becomes a solute. So it like dissolves and becomes a watery soda, which there's nothing worse. The only thing worse than watery soda is anything that is soggy. Like, that's the worst context for food ever, is soggy. Also, watery soda, the next worst.
The best part about this is we're arguing about this, and me and Daigle both don't drink soda anymore.
Yeah, I don't drink soda.
As I'm literally drinking
coffee, beer, and water is all that runs through these blood.
I won't be able to give up soda. I'm trying to be healthier. I also fully admit I'm a caffeine junkie. Okay, caffeine powers my life, whatever. But I'm trying to minimize. Like, I'm trying not to do like a bunch of coffee in the afternoon or like crazy energy drinks or whatever. I literally just came back from the gym after this, and I was like, I need some caffeine if I'm gonna shoot the shit for an hour and a half or whatever. So yeah, soda fills that gap for me. And I drink like entirely water, like all the time. I don't know how you guys. This is not week 17 related. Apologies, guys, but we're on a soda path.
It's week 17. We can talk about whatever we want.
I get to the afternoon. I think I got some of this from my wife because I used to just drink water around the clock. Like, I would be happy with an ice cold glass of water at any time. But now, as I've gotten older, when we get like later in the afternoon, I do drink a lot of water, which is good. Like in the mornings, I drink quite a bit of water. That's why pretty much every podcast episode, you'll see me step away to go use the restroom because I am very hydrated. But I'm like so sick of water in the afternoon now in my older age. So I'm like, I need something else. And like, I drink the sparkling waters, I drink all of that shit. But the soda does come in clutch. And I have felt that pain that Daigle has when I go get a fountain soda, and I'm like,
I started doing just like bulk buying sparkling water just because I noticed like in the middle of the week when I'm writing, like I'll reach over, I was drinking beer and I'd reach over for a can. And then I realized like, oh, that's just habitual. Like, that's all I'm doing. So if I just replace that can with another can, it's going to serve its purpose. And so now I just bulk buy sparkling water. And so it not only allows me to hydrate, it's less beer throughout the middle of the week.
Favorite sparkling water brand? What are you drinking?
I prefer bubbly to LaCroix. I think the bubbly berry flavors are really, really good. Having said that, there's a Chicago, I'm sure they serve it everywhere. It's called Waterloo. Do y'all know that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Waterloo has some like orange and vanilla bean, like basil and strawberry. They got some fancy herb flavors.
Yeah.
I like my herbs and my flavors. Yeah.
So does Spindrift. You had Spindrift. It's a little.
I've never had Spindrift.
Much stronger, like a little more pungent. But anybody knows, so I'm sitting at a desk, I'm sure you guys are sitting at a desk. I never felt more connected to a really, really famous person that I'll never meet was when Mina Kimes was like, people are like, oh, you look so presented, your background is beautiful, everything is great. She goes, if you could see in front of me, there's like 47 Spindrift cans and half of them are half drank or whatever. It's like, that's always what it is for me. Is like, there's a soda bottle here and there's a Spindrift can and there's a bubbly can, and it's like there's just shit everywhere.
Oh, so I do drink. There's no sugar in them, But God, I need to stop drinking those actually because there's an extra, I think 200 grams of caffeine in there. What's the not the the water? I'm gonna have to think about it real quick. Hold on.
All right.
So it's fine. My wife also drinks. We drink tons of hint water. That has helped me. I'll be totally honest. It's like a fruit infused water bottles that has been very helpful for anybody trying to be more hydrated and stuff. Boy, people did not come for the week 17 takes. They did come for all the
It's week 17. Oh, bubbler. Bubbler is what I drink a lot of. There's no sugar. Yeah, bubbler. There's no sugar. It's antioxidant water. But there's caffeine in it and it mixes good with vodka. So, at night, if you have it and you pour it into your body, it's hydrating.
I also feel I have Liquid Death on subscribe and save on all Amazon.
I like White Can Liquid Death.
I drink both of them, but that's it. Like you said, it's like habitual. Like I drink less alcohol. Yes. It's like it does make you feel much cooler. Like it's
also
super
the
cool
iced tea.
To be. Yes, the iced tea is good.
Iced tea is really good.
Iced tea is good. It makes me feel really cool at 36 years old to be drinking something called Liquid Death. Let me tell you.
What good marketing, by the way. I mean, just the best marketing possible.
They created
to make water seem cool.
They created the most replaceable product of all time and got rich as hell out of it.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Sorry, the chat is killing me. Josh says you can't trust the Wendy's. The Wendy's employee cleaning the ice machines. That's fair. That's everybody. Apparently, the ice machines are very disgusting. So
I'm not even a germaphobe. Like I don't even do it for that. I'm just telling you, it's a waste of space. So I don't get the ice.
The only soda I still drink, and I brought this up in our private chat, Daigle, is when I go to the movie theater.
Yep.
I still get soda at the movie theater, and it has to be the strawberry Mr. Pibb, and that is the best soda on the planet.
Okay.
I still get the icy. That's the only time I do like a sugar drink. I get the ices at movie theaters. Yep.
Yeah.
My niece is obsessed with Sour Patch Kids. And we just had a conversation at Christmas about like, okay, what does everybody, when you go to the movies, what does everybody get? Because mine was when I was growing up, it was like, I don't care about popcorn. Popcorn's whatever. Like, it's fine. I was like, we walked to the line and I grabbed this out. It was Sour Patch Kids, and my parents were just like, "We really spending $7.50 on a pack of Sour Patch Kids?" But that was my go-to all the time at the movies.
Snow caps, and then
snow caps.
And then what you can do with snow caps, if you want to flavor it up a little bit, you dump your snow caps into your popcorn.
Wait,
interesting.
What?
That gives it a crunchy texture. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't have a sweet tooth. Like even when I go out like running or bike rides with friends and they stop at like the ice cream shop or whatever on the way back, I get nothing because I just don't care. I don't have a sweet tooth at all. I do love sour gummy candy though. Love it. So so I do live on Rips. Like that's what I'll have if I choose one. Rips are at 7-Eleven, many flavors, the best sour tape, or my favorite, Australian licorice. Australian licorice that you get from Trader Joe's, any farmer's market. It's not regular licorice, it's not the black shitty stuff. It doesn't taste like American Twizzlers. It comes in flavors and it's like juicy and pungent. It is the absolute best.
I'm definitely not feeling the snow caps and popcorn. I am feeling I'm the same way. I don't have my wife does mega sweet tooth. So I get a little bit through osmosis, I guess I would say, with the wife we get. I also, all right, last thing, and then we'll actually talk some football. Because you guys also just got done with Dean. Dean and I did a show, or I posted on social. And then afterwards, Dean and I did a show maybe last year, where sometimes we'll have at home movie nights. The wife and I, but I will go to. There's a movie theater like 8 minutes from me.
Yeah, this is.
I will go to the movie theater and get movie theater popcorn and bring it home, and we will have
that's weird. I think that's weird. That's stranger than mine.
It's weird, dude.
You're talking about what's the gum tape or whatever. Let's at least put these rips. Yeah, whatever the fuck that is.
Don't knock rips.
I fully own the fact that this is weird, but so after Dean called me out on it, of course live in public, I went to. This is a real thing. A lot of people do this. I've learned. A lot of people that are the vocal minority. It's like
everyone's doing this.
Yes, everyone. It's very cool. Go down to your local Marcus or Warenberg or what is Warenberg still in business? Yeah, go down to your local movie theater. It's a normal thing. I walked up. The last time they were like, yeah, just go. Like apparently, like the guy was like, I was like, I'm just gonna get some popcorn. He's like, go, okay. Go see it. It's normal. I'm telling you, it's normal. Maybe it's the Midwest.
And you don't feel like anything you can buy from stores or make yourself at home is mimicable to that.
No, but that's it's totally psychological. I guarantee I could make something very similar. It's the butter.
I think the chat's more on your side, honestly. Whereas like I make my own at home. Also, when you make your own kernels at home, you can then put as much butter, or I like to add chili oil because I like spicy. So I'll make like chili red flakes and butter, and then I have my own spicy butter popcorn. Rob isn't into the spicy popcorn take.
Listen.
Have you made popcorn in some bacon grease? There's a winner for you. Try that one. Try that one.
Sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
right.
I need to
before we move on, I just want to say I got to go see Nosferatu last week at like a special engagement, and it was the best movie theater experience I've had in my life in a long time. It was at this very
in
like
your life in a long time.
Well,
not in your life, like
what's
you
the
know cutoff
what I mean.
for
I'm
in
sick.
your life in
I'm
a long
sick,
time.
Erik. Anyways, they would kick you out if you took your phone out of your pocket.
Hell yeah!
And the entire audience was into the movie. It was just. It's been a long time since I've had that experience at a theater, and it was really cool to experience that. So I was very
the movie
excited
was awesome too, right?
Yeah, amazing.
The last time I got very quickly, one more thing. Last time I got that experience was I went to see the Andre 3000 show with his like traveling musical group, and it is improv. Every show he does is improv. And he asks you to kindly put your phone away. That way you can like be present in the moment of the album for an hour and a half, and then you get the hell out of there. But every show he does is different because it's entirely musical improv with the group he travels with. And it was incredible. Lots of flute. Cool.
Love it. Andre 3000 also just recently got called out by one of the hardo rappers or whatever, because Andre 3000 is still making music and some of it is not
okay.
Very good.
I thought you were about to tell me he got called out by P. Diddy. He's like, oh no, I'm not allowed to.
No.
Okay,
no.
Good.
Did you see though the best Diddy like a Joker moment or whatever was on NBA the TNT, right? So Shaq, Charles, Kenny, and Ernie or whatever. Kenny Smith. So for people who don't know, like multi-time NBA champion, all-star guard for the Houston Rockets back in the day. Granted, he won when MJ was retired, but nonetheless. So super famous, really good basketball player. And somebody was like, I guess like talking shit to him on like social media or whatever. And they were like, why don't you fire back? Like, why don't you clap back at that guy? And Kenny was like, he basically did the he's below my line type thing. He's like, we don't talk to the people that are beneath us, right? He needs to step up to me. He said it was like if somebody came at Jay-Z, like Jay-Z and Charles taps him on the shoulder, he goes, hey, now's not a very good time. Shaq lost it. Everybody lost it. And so it was super funny. But
I go down that rabbit hole every now and I should probably once a week, honestly. I'll go back and like end up on Instagram reels or YouTube videos of the highlights of the best of inside the NBA.
So good.
Yeah.
Amazing. What a disaster the media market is to not let that, like the best pre and post game show that is out there. This is definitely true of Vaporware. We've turned into Snack Week. It's week 17, man. We're all what's gonna happen is gonna happen this weekend. If you do have questions, right, start sit questions on particular players, please post them and we'll hit some of this stuff. What I will say, Vaporware does ask thoughts on the NFL versus NBA Christmas Day ratings. Well, I mean, one was on Netflix and one was on ABC and ESPN. So naturally, that's what it is. I did love LeBron. I don't know if you guys watched Warriors Lakers at the end of the night. Mm-hmm. Incredible basketball game, and LeBron kind of dunking on the NBA, trying to come to Christmas Day was pretty awesome. I do wish the NFL would kind of stay in their lane a little bit. They're trying to take over the college football day, right? We had NFL games when the college football playoffs were going on, and Christmas Day I don't know. NFL is what it is. I got no arguments with it. If you like the NFL better, those games were fucking shit though.
Garbage.
The Christmas Day games were absolutely horrible. AJ Brown. This is a good one. Actually, I want to talk about the Eagles a little bit. No Jalen Hurts. And obviously Josh is joking. AJ Brown or Keyshawn Boutte. Maybe he's not joking. Obviously, you prefer AJ Brown there, but how do you feel with Kenny Pickett at the helm? It's a good matchup against the Cowboys, but like if you made the finals with your AJ Brown or Devonta Smith or whatever, Saquon's whatever, but like they start with Daigle. What are you thinking about the Eagles? Right? It's a weird spot.
It's a tough spot because Kenny Pickett ruins everything. I don't know why he's in the NFL. I still can't believe a team has him on this roster. Honestly, he comes off the bench last week.
Have you seen the other backup quarterbacks?
Tanner McKee's better than Kenny Pickett. He should be starting this game over Pickett. And that's relative. It's not like Tanner McKee's going to change the world. But Kenny Pickett came off the bench last week, 3 sacks, 2 turnovers. But we know where the ball's going to go. Like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, 23 of 25 targets last week. Not only that, but I only know the stat because Rich just said it on the other show. Kenny Pickett also, with those throws, targeted A.J. Brown with a 60% target share. Like, absolutely insane. So you would imagine, yes, A.J. Brown is totally fine, like, relative to having Kenny Pickett under center.
What do you think about the Eagles, Rob?
I mean, there's not much more to break down than that with terms of Kenny Pickett. A.J. Brown's going to get targeted. He's going to get targeted heavy, and it is what it is. Kenny Pickett does suck, but he will get A.J. Brown the ball enough that he's viable to get you a spike score. And
if if this does happen, I'm actually curious. I want to talk about Washington, Atlanta, because this is kind of a segue into that game where I think this might happen too. In that game, if I'm Dallas, right, and I mean, I'm not sure they care that much about winning, but you know, they're coaching for jobs, they're playing for careers and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, look, if AJ Brown's going one-on-one, he might beat me, but I'd rather that than Saquon runs for 250, right? Like, let's let Kenny Pickett try to beat us. I'm going to stack the box. That's also how I kind of feel Washington is going to play it. That's kind of what Washington did actually to Kenny Pickett, is they took Saquon away and they said, Kenny Pickett, you go beat us because our offense can score. I kind of think that's what Washington will do to Atlanta and say, Bijan ain't beating us, right? Michael Penix is going to have to beat us. What do you think about those two spots in terms of, you know, those running backs? It's in theory a great spot for Saquon and for Bijan, but I do think there's a little bit of that strategy component where those coaches are not total morons, right? They also see that. They see it's Michael Penix and Kenny Pickett. Let's let those guys beat us instead of the superstar running backs.
There's game plans, right? Like, there's game plans on what you want to do, but do you have the personnel to do it? I don't know if Dallas has the personnel to do that, and I'm not 100% sure Washington does. So, yeah, that's what they'd want to do.
I think Washington might. I'm not sure that Dallas does, though.
Yeah. For Penix, it's going to get interesting because they do need to open up the playbook for him at some point. It's probably in this game, since Washington just moved the ball against Philadelphia with ease as well. And if that's the case, it is a good spot for him. Like, even last week, he did exactly what they asked of him. He didn't take a single sack on his 9 pressures, which Kirk Cousins could not do because he's not elusive at all. And when he was throwing downfield, Penix went 5 of 8 for 11.3 yards per attempt. Washington still allows some big plays on you, a league high 10 touchdowns on throws 20 yards deep against them. So I think there is some room for a ceiling here for Penix in this game.
Favorite receiver, is it still Mooney? Mooney looked pretty good last week with
London still led him in target share, but Mooney's the one who got downfield. 4 of his 6 targets came 10 yards downfield. So I think Mooney has the higher ceiling than London. Makes
total sense to me. All right, some questions here. This did make me laugh. You
sit Landman, by the way. Lioness is kick ass. I don't care what anyone says, dude. That all he did, what's the director? Taylor Sheridan. All he did was take Sicario, which you wrote, and say, what if I turned that into a TV show, but like make it a little more PG? Lioness is amazing. It's a great show.
They just made Sicario. Isn't Sicario 2 coming out?
There's already Sicario 2.
It's
already out. Yeah. And Taylor Sheridan also was a writer in that one too. Listen, Yellowstone turned Taylor Sheridan to a villain, but he's a very good writer who like has a sense of screenwriting, which is why all of his shows are popular. But Yellowstone is the worst one because it's a soap opera.
Yeah, it's definitely a
Tulsa
soap
King
opera.
has no business being good. Like Sylvester Stallone gets forced from a New York mob to go make a business in Tulsa, Oklahoma. No business being good, and it's really good.
That is like, you wouldn't think that's real. What you just described as a TV show that gets made.
It's
The
good.
only thing you should have added is that it's 97-year-old Sylvester Stallone
Yes.
going to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
This isn't Rocky.
But like he still wears like suits around Oklahoma, and like he still like dabbles and buys a weed business at a bar, and then he has these friends. I promise you, it's a very good show, although it sounds stupid.
Oh man, yeah, we
Thank
everybody,
you. See, it's awesome.
Everybody has come for the non-football takes to the old Week 17.
Oh, we'll talk Taylor Sheridan all day because again, Yellowstone did him no favors. The rest of the shows are really good though.
I assume you guys have seen. Look, we're off the rails. Let's stay off the rails.
Fuck it.
Did Kevin Costner like basically put all of his life savings into whatever the new
movie.
show, the movie that he did?
Yeah.
And his wife said, I haven't followed close enough, so you guys can correct me. Rob, you'd probably know better. His wife said if he does this, she's gonna divorce him. And he was like, "Fuck you! I believe in this. We're gonna put all of our life savings."
Horizon? Are we talking about that one?
I think that's
the 2-part Western movie.
Yeah, it's the Western. Or
okay,
whatever. He
it
became
did look good
with this because of Yellowstone. He became obsessed with it,
and he was really good in Yellowstone. It kind of went off the rails at the end with him because a lot like House of Cards, it just started going into territory it had no business going into, rather than sticking with the plot of the show. And that's why Kevin Costner also was eventually written off or wrote himself off to work on that movie. But yeah.
I also don't like Kevin Costner. Like I don't like him as an actor overall. I don't think he's great personally.
I thought he
was not the worst
actor,
actor, but not good.
Yeah, he's
he's Kevin Costner.
He's Josh Jacobs. It's like, it's fine.
I always thought Dennis Quaid was the worst actor, but he's had kind of a resurgence though with Substance, and he was also, wasn't he in another Western we watched recently?
Well, he was cast perfectly in Substance because that's who he is as an actor. You know what I mean? So he got to play to his strengths in that movie. But I don't think he's good overall. Like, he's not a good actor.
I know what it is. Gosh, this is going to be full circle. He plays, he's the helper in one of the other Taylor Sheridan shows about the black cowboy. Gosh, what is
I know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen it.
I can't remember what the show is. It's also a good show too.
Yeah.
He plays like the guy who helps him. Someone's going to help me on the chat. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, somebody will get it. Dennis Quaid's terrible. I'll stand by that.
If you really want to know how bad he is, watch the movie Legion, which might be the worst acting performance I've ever seen.
Don't watch
in my life.
No, don't.
I don't think I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Don't watch it. Don't watch
Johnny
it.
Football says Costner is also apparently one of the worst people to. That is a high bar to clear, to be tough to work with in the Hollywood industry. There's a lot of people. Those stories are pretty fascinating. How long before this turns into? I thought we already were transitioning into hometown ghost stories. Vaporware asks, but we will hit some football here. We did talk about this, and I think it's kind of neutral in terms of London or Mooney as the beneficiary in that spot. Daigle mentioned a little more downfield stuff for Mooney, as you would expect, but a little more target share for London. So, it's pretty neutral, but I think that's overall good for Darnell Mooney because you're theoretically right. Drake London was like a 1-2 turn pick. Darnell Mooney was a 12th round pick. Like that, the cost is really helpful for Darnell Mooney. But King G Cheap says 2 running backs and flex. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys, and we got to pick 3. We got to pick 3 guys. So that sucks because I really like this spot for Terry McLaurin. I would talk about that game a little bit, but he has Achane, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, and Terry McLaurin. What a team. Good God. I can only imagine that McLaurin's your flex option. I would play the running backs too, but I also really love Terry McLaurin this week. Is there any way he could sneak in over any of these guys at all?
Nah, you're overthinking it. Just
Yeah,
don't.
I mean, what wide receivers are we not playing over McLaurin? What four league team
Jacobs.
is this? Right?
Yeah, like Jacobs. I actually like Jacobs.
Though, right?
I like
It's
Jacobs the
though.
least. Yeah, I like Jacobs the least among these three. But even then, you're guaranteed touches. Like you always take the guaranteed touches. And what is the second highest scoring total, but probably could be the highest scoring game of the entire week.
Yeah.
But he's the one with the worst.
Making
spot.
the environment when you're nitpicking.
Yeah, Jacobs has the worst spot. It's just hard to give away 25 touches.
Yeah, and he does have pass catching chops though as well. So
Yeah.
he got there last week too against the Saints because of the catches. So you're not benching the running backs at all. You're not even thinking about it.
But on the McLaurin side, we've talked a lot about the Atlanta offense. Do we think that Washington could just gas pedal this game just to make, you were saying that they need to make Penix beat them defensively. Do we think that Washington just sort of steps on the gas before the playoffs just to
It's possible.
sort of
against
Atlanta? I mean,
Washington could put up 35.
That's what I'm thinking.
But again, you're taking the running back touches.
I'm not for that. I'm not talking about
in DFS and battle royals. Like we know we're playing for unique edges. Like in season long, we're not playing for unique edges. You take the dumbest answer possible in season long every time.
Right.
That's why you don't. To your point earlier, that's why you don't sit Jaden Daniels for Aaron Rodgers ever.
Right.
I know. No matter how good the spot feels, just take the free points. Let your opponent lose. You just don't lose.
That's why I do everything else. Not just because it's another job for me, but also, and like it's another paycheck, but also because it's just fun to get away and play different games than the easy answers that everyone tries to be unique around. It's like we're not, 1% of the field is not rostering Terry McLaurin. We don't have to worry about this.
Yeah, exactly. I do like this. This is a good kind of segue into some more week 17. I did just want to. I brought this up, but he has Jamar Chase and Puka. And those other four guys. Good God. Congratulations, sir, on your championship. My God. What an absolutely insane team. But Bullock, I just want to shout out. I'm gonna pull up Bullock's team, but we can start to dig into this. I want to shout Bullock out though. He's in the Best Ball Mania finals, and he had Travis Kelce go so far. That's it. And so he avoided last night's game. He avoided. So like if you didn't have Lamar, like
start
okay, right? If you didn't have Mahomes, okay, but he's fine. Trust me when I pull up the quarterbacks and everything. This team is.
Hold on. Let me tell you. I want to answer his question. Then you tell me his roster. I don't want to see it first.
Okay.
Because he's asking who is going to take down Best Ball Mania. So I can tell you I can make an educated guess.
Oh yeah, I like this game. Okay.
I will still say Jamar Chase. Kyren Williams. I'm just going to go down the list here. At least one player from each game. Jamar Chase, Kyren Williams, Jonathan Taylor, both Breece Hall, Josh Allen, and James Cook.
Can't do Breece and Kyren. Well, I guess
just one.
Breece, Kyren, JT. Technically, okay. I take back my statement. Technically, you could have them all, but you can't have an early wide receiver.
Okay. I can't have an early wide receiver. Okay. Brian Thomas. He wasn't early, right?
No, he was like seventh round.
Gosh, nice. Scorched
smash.
Yes. Brian Thomas. I think Tajee Spears is going to have a usable score this week as well. Okay, let's see.
What's the final on Pollard?
The last 3 weeks for Pollard have been DMP. Last week he was DMP.
Practiced.
Yeah,
Allen Iverson.
Yeah, but the way it's working out now is that Spears still gets the ball in like garbage time. So still like him. Oh, Bucky Irving's going to destroy the world. Bucky Irving's going to go.
Let's hope so.
Fucking nuclear, dude. Late round Adam Thielen is going to be really interesting there.
Fuck.
Rico Dowdle's dusted. He's done. Can't get him there. Let's see. I already mentioned the other running backs, so Devon Achane probably won't come into play. Jerome Ford's really good still.
Ford's an interesting name to talk about in the offseason.
Yeah. Talk about he's like a mid-round JT where like it was really bad all season, and then you popped at the right time, right? He hit at the right time.
All the wide receivers in the Packers-Vikings game, because no Christian Watson, so you're going to get late-round Wicks and Dobbs there. And Jordan Addison was a late-round pick because of suspension. So Jordan Addison's 100% going to get there. Let's see.
Jaden Reed week.
It is, 100% Jaden Reed. Mm-hmm. We already touched on Falcons Commanders a little bit, and then Lions 49ers. Yeah, like Jameson, you're probably going to get there. 49ers, Jawan Jennings, if you jammed him in the last couple of rounds, definitely. Yeah, I think those are the winning players.
Favorite.
And Garindo too.
Garindo. So the Lions are interesting because for 2 years in a row now, they're really, really popular in all of these finals. Because I mean, they've been awesome. So like, but then DeMont goes down, right? They have the crazy Bills game to where we get these nuclear Goff, Amon-Ra, JMO, Laporta, everybody gets home, right? In Lions games for the last little while. What do you think about that? And I'll pull up Bullock's team here in just a second. But what do you think about? There's like, it's not just like they look good, but they're also really, really popular. Like, where do Amon-Ra, Laporta, etc. rank on the list of? Because it took you a little while to get to those guys, right? But like, they're also the most popular guys in like all these finals. Amon-Ra is higher owned than JJ, I think, in most of the finals, even though Jefferson just went for damn near 40.
Gosh, the environment's just better for Green Bay and New York and Minnesota. Amon-Ra also, like, he's going to have to score a touchdown really to try to match that. So that's a little bit concerning. Laporta, he's at least been a different player over the last month since he came back from injury. Like the first half of the year, he was only seeing 10.5% of the team's targets. Since he's come back, he hasn't dipped below 16.5%. Really just been back to what people expected throughout the entire season. So I still love Sam Laporta. Because we saw the offense change as a whole last week too without David Montgomery, which we kind of figured. We knew they'd have to be a totally different offense. It was an easy matchup against, I know the Seahawks didn't make it look like this, but since week 11, the Bears are dead last in every metric you can think of. EPA, success rate through the air. They've become the league's worst defense. So the Lions didn't have issues pushing it last week, but still, I think based on what the 49ers defense is, like, as long as Jared Goff is not under pressure, and it's a true question mark, I don't know, then yes, these guys will get tagged along, but that could limit Amon-Ra's ceiling as an early round wide receiver.
Yeah, can he beat, right? I think everybody expects like he'll be fine, but being fine when you have to beat Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, right? And AJ Brown and all these other guys, it's
I don't think he can do that personally. It wouldn't shock me if he does.
Tyreek,
but if he told me to pick one,
Tyreek or Amon-Ra?
Still Amon-Ra. And that's going for the floor. I'm still worried about Tyreek.
Aren't we all? That is for sure.
I think we're seeing early bad weather in Cleveland too.
Yeah. The weather, you mentioned this at the top, super tilting. To get here to this point and be reliant.
But it was also something people, it was baking into. We were baking into our decisions. At least the cold for Tua.
We're so bad at it, right? Like some of the best
course.
Week 17 games are typically the ones that were like, oh, it's not in a dome, it's out in Buffalo or whatever. And it's like, yeah, and then they drop 60 because the teams are really good.
Cleveland Jets last year.
Yeah, Brees was awesome, right? The Browns were.
All of them were.
Yeah,
it was a disastrous, like real life game, but everyone in that game went nuts.
Yep.
Right?
Amari, Ford, Brees, Garrett, all of them went nuts.
Crazy. Rob, do you have something to add to this question before we start to pull up some teams?
I like the Bucky call. I mean, he's one of my three. I would have said Zach Charbonnet before last night because of, he should have actually, but they didn't use him the way that I thought they were going to use him last night. So there was that whole thing. But going forward, I mean, you want Jamar Chase. I think the Bengals are one of those sneaky teams. I know that their pathway to the playoffs is tough, but they're playing out the rest of the season as long as they win.
Oh yeah,
against the Broncos, and I've actually been drafting them in some playoff best ball contests because you can get just 8th, 9th, 10th round on some teams that are like, when you get those shallow teams where you're not getting some of the teams you want. I can get Burrow, Chase, and Chase Brown, and if they sneak in somehow, great.
I have non-zero. I have non-zero Chase. I haven't done Burrow, but I have non-zero Jamar Chase and Chase Brown because of exactly what you said. Sometimes you get there and you're like, I just need a total home run swing, and the Bengals can make some sense.
And I think that's like one of those leverage points. We can talk about that another time. The Green Bay game, obviously, I love Jaden Reed. I really like it. I really like that Washington-Atlanta game. I have since the beginning. I really like doing. I think that the game stack that I want going into this week is Jaden, Terry McLaurin, and I want Bijan. I want that game stack going into week 17.
That's my I made the DraftKings 5-5-5 final. Unfortunately, I have David Njoku at tight end, which really sucks. And the backup tight end I have to David Njoku is Colby Parkinson. So Colby Parkinson, what I need Daigle, you mentioned Kyren Williams. That's somebody I was going to bring up. I need Kyren to throw a halfback pass touchdown to Colby Parkinson. That's all we're rooting for on Saturday night.
It sucks. It sucks. Tyler Higbee came back.
Tyler Higbee, and quite frankly, Hunter Long was really carving into
Davis Allen
Parkinson.
as well. Yeah.
It's a mess for Parkinson, but I'm drawing to Colby Parkinson, one catch. I need the Isaiah Likely game, the one catch for 5 yards or whatever, and a touchdown from Colby Parkinson. But it is what it is. I am excited about that game on Saturday night. I think that one will be really fun. I say that because our good friend Bullock, I wanted to pull up his team just because it's a great like kind of encapsulation of best ball and all this chaos and all that kind of stuff. But he has a couple different guys from that game. You see here on your screen. So Rob just mentioned the Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin stack. That's also, I have that. Very biased. Also drafted that a ton. So we're rooting for that one. But still has basically this whole team is like live. I mean, Khalil Herbert is basically dead. But
the usage for Jacksonville is such a whack-a-mole that Tank Bigsby could absolutely provide a usable score.
Tennessee, the vaunted run defense, just got absolutely
4 touchdowns
by the Colts run game. So the Jags are not the Colts, but still like Tank could get home. But where would you mention Kyren in your like week 17 guys to have? He is, after this whole season with Saquon, with Derrick Henry, right? There's Breece, there's Bijan. I kind of think Kyren and JT have maybe even Gibbs, I guess, have jumped those guys who were like the regular season league winners. Like if I showed up to week 17 with Kyren, I think I'm even happier than with Saquon. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say, like, given their environments, what we stepped into, yes, it is much better for Kyren. We know he's not going to be relieved of any touches for Blake Corum, and the Cardinals, more importantly, they're missing 2 starters on the offensive line. It's not week 2 whenever
both tackles.
Puka was out, Cooper Kupp got injured. Rams were missing 2 offensive linemen in week 2. This is an entirely different game where the Rams are probably just going to dominate them. So yes, would love to have Kyren here. The only other player, like I think the top 3 running backs this week are Kyren, Saquon, and Bucky Irving. And I would put Bucky ahead of Saquon. I put Bucky ahead of Saquon this week. ETR's projections, actually, our initial rankings had Bucky outscoring Saquon. And I think we fudged him back a hair just because it looked weird. But Bucky's in the better situation against that Panthers defense. Also, like now, I talked about this on the last show with Rich. The last 2 times he practiced in full, he outtouched Rachaad White 28-12 and 19-10 last week. And he's not on the injury report at all. And again, 19-10 last week was a season high. 84% of their team's running back carries. So like after that fumble, Rachaad White had on the last play, Bucky really projects for a season high in touches in this game. Like he's going to go nuclear.
Yeah. Also a really fun DFS play on Sunday. We got the whatever the hell they're calling it, the Mega Millionaire or whatever, 2 milli up top.
That's the 3. That's the 3,000, right?
Yeah. I'm super excited for that, and you can almost guarantee Bucky is going to be in my team on that.
So I'm not gonna be playing it because I'm on a trip to India in 12 hours.
What?
And so like I don't want a VPN because like I know people who have had their whole account like removed.
You'll get banned.
You'll get banned for life. And so I thought about playing it, but I just can't. I can't risk that because it is part of my income. So I need that money.
I would not. For anyone listening, I'm not saying you can't be successful. I'm saying the risk reward.
It's not worth.
Math is not does not play out in your favor. I just want. So anyway, let's run down this team super quick because there's some shout out. Liam Murphy, Chess Liam has some really good Basketball Mania teams. I've seen some other ones, but Bullock, I was talking to Bullock and sent me this and I was like, holy shit, dude, this team's like mega live, like really, really live to win Basketball Mania. I'm not trying to mush him or whatever, but again, we passed through a few games with some decently popular pieces. Keenan ended up being pretty popular, so no Worthy on this team, but like basically other than Worthy, like avoided all the landmines and doesn't have, and didn't have to worry about any of the other fades, but has the Kyren that we talked about. James Conner looks like he's going to play. J.K. Dobbins, of course, going to play, and Daigle called out Tank Bigsby as another kind of like ancillary running back / flex option. That if Tank Bigsby has 100 and a touchdown or 2 in this game, would anybody be that shocked? I wouldn't be that shocked. And then just having a wide receiver room that is having a whole team that's fully healthy, but having a wide receiver room that's fully healthy. Tyreek Hill. So, like you said, are we worried? Sure. But he's probably the lowest owned of the superstar wide receivers facing the Browns defense. Devonte Adams, really excited about. We talked about Terry McLaurin. You talked about Brian Thomas, right? So Brian Thomas is your wide receiver 4. I know Jerry Jeudy is not exciting with DTR, but he's the wide receiver 5, right? And there's no Njoku and there's no Cedric Tillman. Michael Wilson is alive, is running routes. Andre Yoshivas is alive and running routes. And Tim Patrick in that Monday night, like the Monday night game, like Tim Patrick had scored 2 touchdowns and nobody would be that shocked. Already banked the Travis Kelce score and has Brock Bowers in the bag.
Oh,
tight
wow.
End, sick team. So I just wanted to shout it out. Like, this is the kind of stuff you can get. And nobody would have said, this team all year was like, oh, what a stone cold smash. Like, Tyreek was disappointing. Kyren was fine. Right? Like, nothing about this team was.
T. Higgins is so banged up, you could sneak in a Yoshivas touchdown for a usable score if you need to as well.
I used Yoshi to get to I didn't make the BBM finals.
That's a good team.
I used Yoshi to get to the Pitbull finals. I used this score last week, had like 13.
Dude,
or something like that.
Kelce and Bowers usable scores. That'd be awesome.
No, that if he wins, that's how I need him to win.
That'd be awesome.
I need Kelce, Bowers to both be used scores in his lineup. And then we can have the absolute meltdown about elite tight end next year.
To have granted, the elite tight end cabal doesn't think Brock Bowers classifies in the elite tight end. But
I will just dress up as Joker and jump down the money pile, lighting things on fire if we get that, because that's exactly what will happen.
To have double elite tight end win and both hit the winning BBM lineup would be absolutely epic. I'm just because I'm gonna pull up a couple of quick teams that I have in the semifinals. You see them here in green. I made the no BBMs or anything like that, but I made the Pitbull final. Actually, kind of now that David Njoku is out, I'm a little more excited about this Pitbull team, but mostly live. You mentioned you got it started to move over here, Daigle, when you mentioned Tyjae Spears, because I feel like that's a reasonably fun piece to have. But James Cook also, like, not a guy. Like, this team is kind of funny because it's not a ton of dudes I drafted a lot of, which is another good, like, kind of just encapsulation of best ball. But James Cook, Tyjae Spears, Chase Brown, really that's essentially my running back room. Technically, there's some, well, not Ty Chandler, but technically there's some other guys. And then JJ, Devontae, Neighbors, and McLaurin is really all I got at wide receiver. But again, Bowers, Jake Ferguson, not expecting much from Jake Ferguson, but have Bowers. So a reasonable team. And then I'll just shout the 5-5-5 team that is like, this is basically a season-long team. Like, I know who's hitting the lineup in this team because everybody is hurt. So no Gardner Minshew. It's only Jaden Daniels. But I'm pretty cool going to battle with Kyren, James Conner, and Jerome Ford at running back, which is funny as kind of a running back bro. Again, Colby Parkinson is really my only tight end now. But JJ, Devontae, Terry McLaurin, Pickens sucked, but Brian Thomas Jr. So, we're it's only a 38-man final in the 5-5-5. So, it's a little bit easier to finish higher, but that's, I wanted to bring it up to, like, sometimes, like, BBM isn't everything, even though, Bullock and these other guys have made the BBM finals. There's a lot of paths to making money in best ball, all these different tournaments that you can sneak into the finals with, right? Like, Cedric Tillman's been out for a month and a half now. Like, a lot of these guys haven't, like, done a ton. George Pickens has been out, et cetera, but there's crazy ways to have some real best ball sweats when we get to this time.
Yeah, you got Jalen Tolbert without CeeDee Lamb too.
The Jalen Tolbert nuclear game that may never ever happen again. Maybe this is the run out. We didn't finalize. I do want to just double back to Bullock's question and kind of give we do this on every DFS show every Sunday. Neil Orfield and I do a flag plant. I want to go around the room and do kind of a flag plant of what's going to win everybody their fantasy championships and best ball championships. But go ahead, Rob.
The one thing I wanted to ask before we got out of here to Daigle was going into next year, and I'm sure we'll do shows together.
Mhm.
Do you have one or a couple of things that you're looking at from your process of drafting teams this past year that you're going to implement going into 2025? I'm not saying that you've taken a whole lot of time to think about this. I mean, it is still
No,
this
and I'm just
season.
trying to step back and think about, because always what happens is drafting is based on last year's results.
Mhm.
Thus, what is going to change in the rooms? We think it's going to be heavy running backs in the first and second rounds.
I don't know. So I think that would make logical sense, but I also think that people forget that the drafters that set the market are the
Don't
people that
care.
are willing to draft in February and March and don't care that much.
We don't
So the
care.
market gets set early by people that draft differently than that, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I
it
think
makes sense.
Corinne and I talked about this on one of the last episodes that we did. What I think, and we kind of came to with that exact question that you asked, is the beginning. Like, everybody thinks like we're going to pull up all these running backs in the first and second round. I don't really think the first and second round are going to change that much, but maybe think about the Ken Walker, James Cook, Josh Jacobs, whatever, these like cheaper RB1s. Maybe we get a little more of the normal third round, fourth round for those guys, as opposed to like maybe James Conner shouldn't be an eighth round, shouldn't be an eighth. I think we learn our lesson, myself included. We learn our lesson with some of those guys, as opposed to like, are we really going to pull up Josh Jacobs to the first round? Like, no, we're not going to do that. But I think the like second or third tier, whatever we want to classify it, probably gets priced up a little bit more.
So you think in being priced up, it's going to be a dead zone again? Or
I think the dead zone reemerges a little bit.
Okay.
Like the air quotes dead zone in terms of what we used to classify it round by round was not dead at all. It was awesome this year, and it was pretty good. Breece Hall was in the dead zone last year. I think the last 2 years of that, right? Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall. I know Ken Walker hasn't been awesome, but he was pretty good for the start of the year. James Cook coming on down the stretch, like that dead zone. I think we push that up a little bit more, and then we get more of the old school running back like buckets.
Well, then that would entail us probably starting for optimal builds running backs, and then when that next higher price tier running backs comes along, then we start taking wide receivers.
Yeah. So we might get a little bit of the wide receivers like this year. Now Terry has been good, but it was like Terry McLaurin or bust in the fourth round or whatever of wide receivers. And now we might get a little bit more, we're not taking Christian Kirk in the fourth round. We're taking a little bit better wider, the DK Metcalfs or whatever, who were 2-3 turn picks, become fourth round picks. And we move Josh Jacobs ahead of that group of wide receivers.
That makes sense.
Yeah. My two things for next year, I'll just hit real quick. I've brought one of these up. Drafting to my strengths versus what other people are doing with certain players with build types. So if I'm drafting a Josh Jacobs, for example, or even a Saquon Barkley, a Derrick Henry, making sure that knowing how to draft in a different style than the people that normally are drafting those players to get those teams, but get them in a unique structure versus the field is something I'm going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that next year particularly is going to be the year of the falling knife with draft picks. I think a lot of people are going to start dropping in drafts. So like Tyreek Hill, for example, I'm not saying he's 100% going to be bad next year, but he's going to probably drop to late first round, second round. And you're going to have a lot of guys that are, a lot of guys in his sort of, he's a higher round guy for that, but your Tyreek Hills, your Devonte Adams, I think that we're going to be trying to avoid a lot of falling knives next year overall.
He feels like Devonte a little bit, Tyreek, where we get the, even when the elite wide receiver that even a lot of the wide receiver bros are out on, that's a really interesting conversation. I'm not saying it's wrong to be out on that guy. I'm not saying it's right to be in on him. I'm just saying, right, like figuring out whether that is a falling knife or that is a value is a big deal. Like if you have I have Devonte on both of my teams, both guys, he's a very powerful piece to have now. but he was a polarizing kind of guy because even the wide receiver bros were like, yeah, he's an elite wide receiver, but he's old, he's getting worse, blah, blah, blah. And then he can still do what Devonte Adams can do, at least in an individual game.
Right.
All right, Daigle, flag plants for this week, and then we'll get out of here so you can get some sleep before you take a nice journey.
One each.
Yeah, let's do one of each position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end.
Wow, okay.
Just for fun. It's a little more fun to do it that way.
All right, quarterback. I'll go running back.
We can go around. We can go around. You start. Pick a position. We'll go around.
Okay. Well, then in that case, starting with quarterback. Let's see here. I'm looking at all the games again. I'm going to go Joe Burrow among all the options this week. The Broncos defense, although it's considered good, they've really only played like one true test against a playoff contender all year. It was Lamar Jackson, and he smoked them for 16 of 19 passes completed for 14.5 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Even in the last month, Jameis Winston got 497 yards. Justin Herbert last Thursday, 9.1 yards per attempt. I think Joe Burrow takes it to him.
I love it. Rob, go, because I know you're going to take, and I'm going to take that person if you don't.
No, I'm going to let you have him. I'm going to take a guy that I think is going to put up he's not going to outscore Lamar, but he's going to score enough to still win you everything. And that's going to be Jordan Love.
Ooh,
he's going to be pushing. He's going to be pushing the entire game. He's going to have to throw the ball more than he normally does. So I'm going to take Jordan Love.
Love it.
Week 17.
And the one that Rob was going to take that I'm going to take is Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, of course.
That's a flag plant from the whole season, which just so happens to be running into a good spot in week 17. But to Rob's point, we were in on that one. That was one we were like. I have Tyler Algier and Rob has Bijan. Rob has Bijan. He's in a little bit better spot than I with the way we assess that game. But that game looks really, really fun on Sunday Night Football. Daigle, you can go with the running back.
I'll take the easy one. I already talked him up a lot, and that is Bucky Irving, because I think he could finish as the overall RB1 this week.
I'm going to jump in then, and I'm going to take Kyron. Saturday night, if you don't have Kyron, I would be stressing heading into that matchup with Arizona.
We finally get the 30 burger from Bijan this week.
Beautiful. We're making teams here. Bijan, Kyron, Buck. You could have Bucky on that team. Yeah. You could have we're making my. I'll have to do a DFS team with Saturday and Sunday because I agree with all these wide receiver. Daigle.
I think you need Brian Thomas, but I won't go there. I'll go a last round guy. And so I think Marvin Mims is really interesting this week. It is a very, very bad Bengals defense. And now Marvin Mims in his last 3 games has a double-digit target share in every one. He just is fresh off a season high 48% route participation as well. Like that could go back to being a normal route rate, but I think he's shown enough the past month where Sean Payton is getting a lot more interesting. We know he has 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in the bag, like in this kind of environment, if it gets there from Joe Burrow. So I like Mims. That is
fun. Also,
fun and
fun
spicy.
Fact, very spicy. Subscribe to Roto Grinders. He was my tournament play of the week.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna play him. I'm gonna play with Knicks tomorrow.
He looks really good on the DFS slate. I'm gonna let you go, Rob. Wide receiver.
Well, the fun thing about Mims is if he isn't the one that gets there and it's Cortland Sutton, then Cortland Sutton gets the dunk on all the nerds in week 17,
that is true.
Which is also fun.
I'm not looking forward to Cortland Sutton dunking on me. I'm rooting for Marvin Mims because that is very much more of a brand outcome.
I'll just hit the stack with wide receiver. Let's just do the Jordan Love to Jaden Reed for 2 touchdowns, 126 yards on 7 catches.
Also bias here, but I won't choose the stack with Terry McLaurin. It doesn't look like Jair is going to play right for Green Bay, which I kind of wanted Jair Alexander to play for Green Bay to dunk on all the wide receiver cornerback stuff with Justin Jefferson. But that game looks awesome. Justin Jefferson is, in my opinion, the best wide receiver on the planet, and that is a monster game for particularly the Vikings. But I think they're going to take to the air, and I think JJ is going to cook. And so I think JJ is going to be the first rounder, basically, is my point. JJ is going to have the big first round game. So tight ends. We got tight ends. Let's set aside Travis Kelce's and Mark Andrews have already played. Ignoring those guys, is there somebody else that can pop up and beat Travis Kelce? Daigle.
I mean, we're all going to pick Brock Bowers. Let's remove
no
Brock
Bowers.
Bowers.
Okay. No Bowers. He's all of our pick, but if it's not Bowers, who is it?
Gosh, who is it? Because we're not even getting Kate Otten. No one drafted Payne Durham. Dallas Goddard's out.
It's the best late round tight end that we could have picked.
Tucker Kraft.
Tucker Kraft could be it.
Oh.
I was going to say Jonnu Smith. Just take Jonnu.
Jonnu Smith is good. That's good. I'll take Tucker Kraft. You can have Jonnu Smith.
Isn't that a weird game for Johnny though? Like he's been such a volume merchant, and I'm not saying he can't be, and of course he can. But the state of the Browns doesn't feel like the Jonnu.
It's better than last week. Like last week, he still got 6 for 66, I believe. But it was such an obvious, like he can't reach his ceiling in this game because no one's gone over 70 yards against Fred Warner and that Niners defense. Like that's what they do best is defend tight ends in line. And so it was just a bad matchup for Jonnu last week. This one's better. I
just worry about the game environment a little bit.
Sure.
I think
you have to have DTR pushback, which he can't do. So you have to have Jerome Ford. You have to have Jerome Ford single-handedly push back.
Jerome Ford has got to do what he did last week and rip that long, like first play, 66-yard run or whatever. And all right, it's wheels up for you.
I also think to Rob's point, I think Zach Ertz is also another late round guy. Yeah, he still had the shoulder injury last week, but before then, dude, for 5 of his last 6 games, he had 6 of his last 7. He had 7 targets in all of them. All he does is earn targets. He's an easy, comfortable, like low end tight end 1 every week.
My guy that interestingly no one has said is the hammer, George Kittle. George Kittle is if there was a spike week, like if there was a logo, right? Jerry West is the NBA logo. If there was a logo for Spike Week, it's George Kittle. It's what he does. Yeah, and it's Monday night to close out the best ball season and the fantasy football season. George Kittle, while the Lions are scoring a bunch of points, it feels like the Kittle nuke is inevitable.
The only game he didn't have a tight end 1 finish was the Buffalo Snow game this year. Otherwise, he's been a top 12-1 in every single game.
Isn't that great? Did he do it with Brandon?
He's the nuts. Yeah. He's been he did. He's been the nuts every single week. He's been the nuts.
He's
absolutely
not elite,
insane. Right? Absolutely not elite. No, it doesn't count. Isn't it crazy though that George Kittle
has drafted behind Kyle Pitts?
Drafted behind Kyle Pitts, Dalton Kincaid. But I said this a million times. Kittle is like the perfect Spike Week player. But this year he brought the floor. It was like.
Yeah,
you don't need shit else besides George Kittle on your team at tight end, at season long best ball, whatever. Just an absolute stone cold smash. And I feel like his season's going a little bit underappreciated in like the fantasy circles.
I believe he's running a season career high in route participation. Actually, I got him a lot in FFPC best ball builds, but not much because I was in admittedly on you saw Bijan's ADP elevate. You saw Drake London's ADP elevate. Darnell Mooney. It's like Kyle Pitts should come along for the ride here. So I do have a lot more Kyle Pitts, but I still have a lot of George Kittle.
Yeah, just an.
I have never been in on Kyle Pitts for his entire career. Always thought he was overdrafted. This is the one time I got to join the ride with everyone, and it was fun at least for 1 month through August. It's not fun when professional football's played. So no more.
I just looked at it. People were really dunking on, as they should, dunking on Kyle Pitts. I think in the Discord, like maybe a few weeks ago or whatever. He's terrible. But through the first 8 weeks, maybe or something, he was like tight end 4 in fit. Like we forget that. Like, look, I'm not. This is not.
We also forget how bad tight end was through the first 4 weeks.
Exactly. George. I mean, it was George Kittle, and so. But it's funny how the narrative plays out amongst all that. Like, I'm interested in kind of breaking down some of the pockets of time over the course of this year, because it especially at tight end, how we view things based on how things have gone recently is really like what frames our draft strategy for. Like, so Kyle Pitts is going to get buried. I think he should get buried. But 8 weeks ago, if you had Kyle Pitts, you were like, this is fine. Like, this is fine. It's not awesome, but it's fine. And now you're like, if you draft a Kyle Pitts, you're a fucking moron. And maybe you are. And maybe we all are. But it's just interesting, I think, how that all goes. Just quickly, we're going to get out of here because Joe got it in before the buzzer. Any hope for Ferg without CD?
He could. I don't think he's going to be like tight end 1 by any means, but he could be usable to win you a tournament in terms
They're
of
playing so much of the other guys.
I know
his ADOT is so low. It's like only there for a safety blanket.
You're hoping for the touchdown. You're hoping for the
6
2
catches
catch
and a touchdown,
30 yards and a touchdown, something like
just
that.
Pickett actually plays well and they score, right? They score and you get a bunch of Ferg. But even like Schoonmaker's playing.
Josh called the projection 10 for 14.
Yes, I love it. We're gonna get out of here. Daigle, you got anything before you head out of our world? You're not even gonna be around.
Hemisphere.
Week 17.
No, I'll be back on the Pick 6 next week. It's gonna be live from Chennai, India at 8:30 8:30 in the morning my time. I could be coming in from like an Indian club at that time. I have no idea because it's a whole wedding festivity. It's an entire week in Chennai. So like I'm riding elephants at one point. I'm going to safari at some point. Like, and the itinerary is all set. There's like 50 of us from America going to be there. And I just have to work in between. So you'll see me. It's just, that could be in, I don't know what state I'll be in, quite honestly.
Yeah. Let me know how the Wi-Fi is for that, because I'll prep myself a little better and make sure I'm there when the show starts.
I'll be at the hotel at that time. I know exactly where I'll be. I just don't know how quickly I have to get out of there because like we're also moving and there's times where like we take a bus 3 hours away to the next location. So I'm just literally going around India for this wedding.
Absolutely.
I can't wait. It's going to be amazing.
Sounds fun.
But I'm the only one also who has to work in between this because it's still like week 18 of the playoffs. So I'll make it work. I'll figure it out.
I was going to say, it sounds awesome until you say you have to talk about week 18 NFL football amidst your vacation, which sounds pretty terrible. We are going to get out of here. I'll be back. We're recording this on a Friday. If you're listening to the audio feed, I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to rip some playoff best ball drafts tomorrow morning before we get into the we'll bury our nervous energy. We can rip some playoff best ball drafts here live on the YouTube channel before the football starts and the pain kicks in or the happiness, I guess, depending upon your view of that. Shout out to Daigle. Thank you for joining. And of course, we love Rob. You're going to see Rob here in about 2 seconds, letting you know what to do before you leave. We'll see you guys. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.